Hey, Thrive Loud fans, Lou Diamond here. You know, video continues to be such an integral part of marketing and messaging your business. And many entrepreneurs and small businesses are a bit uncertain, even confused, about how to best create and deploy videos for their websites, YouTube channels, and social media sites. If you fall into this category, I have one word for you: Animoto. Join the millions of businesses, photographers, and families who use the power of video to share what matters most to them. Whether it's marketing videos for your business, slideshow videos for photography, or even slideshow compilations of family pictures, anyone can make great videos with Animoto. If you've been a regular listener, you heard Animoto's co-founder, Jason Shao, on the program share his story and how his company is helping so many people incorporate video into their messaging. After that episode aired, we had listeners, former Thrive Loud guests, and even yours truly use Animoto to help create effective marketing videos. So head over to Animoto.com, click the Get Started button, and use the promo code THRIVELOUD to get an additional savings. That's Animoto, A-N-I-M-O-T-O. Make great videos easily.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important announcement. Thrive Loud is officially the best podcast ever. And Lou Diamond is still bald. That is all.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Get ready to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting into the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, we bring you author, speaker, consultant, and the founder and CEO of DiResta Communications, a New York City consultancy serving business leaders who deliver high-stakes presentations. Thrive Loud listeners, fellow New York City NSA member, Diane DiResta. Diane, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, totally a pleasure. For those that have ever had the lovely pleasure of seeing Diane, whether online or in person or speaking wherever, she has the most charming smile. She's always brightened up whenever she walks into a room. So hopefully she'll do the same here on this podcast, which we know she will. So Diane, if you could, let's do a little bit, share listeners, catch everybody up onto what you've been up to of late, what's been going on, a little bit more about DiResta Communications and some of the work you do, and we will just have a fun conversation. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me. Absolutely.
So take it away.
All right. Well, you and I know each other from National Speakers Association, and most recently what I did is I had a public seminar in my office, which is the financial district in New York City. And it was a lot of fun because I've never done that before. So I'm thinking of doing more, and it was focused primarily on delivery, but we also did organization as well. Most of the time, though, I'm working with corporations. And what I'm excited about right now is I have a third edition of my book coming out. So I've been very busy putting that all together. So been speaking to different organizations. One of them was called Edison Electric Institute. They were treasurers and controllers from all of these power companies, and that was a lot of fun as well. So, been busy.
Well, that's good. I've got a question. So many people, we have a lot of communication experts that come on Thrive Loud, a lot of great speakers, a lot of people who help in different ways. Help the Thrive Loud community learn a little bit about some of the biggest problems that you're seeing today, whether in corporate America or just on how people are communicating, and specifically where you're able to help the most.
Well, you know, things have changed since I first started in this business over 20 years ago. I think the bar has been raised much higher. So when we talk about high stakes presentations, that's really true. People have to be good. And I say to people, you cannot be without the skill anymore. Speaking is the new competitive advantage, and it's a leadership skill. So the pressure is on more than ever before. Audiences, on the other hand, are more sophisticated as well, and they really expect and demand a lot. And their attention spans are really short. We've both heard the story about goldfish having a 1 second longer attention span than humans. I don't know if that's true, but it appears to be. So I'm seeing shorter presentations, the TED model, the TED Talk of 20 minutes, 18 minutes, is becoming popular. So people really need to know how to speak in sound bites, and that's one of the things I do. I work with people either one-on-one in their interpersonal communication. I train them to speak to the media, and I do keynotes and help people to be more confident in every kind of presentation. So people need to be more influential and more impactful than they ever had before. And people just have to be able to step up. You can't sit on the sidelines and expect to be successful. So that's where I come in. I often get called in organizations where there's a leader who either doesn't look, sound, or act the part of a leader. And we're talking about executive presence. And what happens is they stall. They're good at what they do, but they can't go beyond. And so I come in and I work with them and get them to that next level so they get forward movement.
Anything recent that you've been experiencing that seems to be the common area that most people are working with? Is it a sense that maybe they're not walking into a room with the sense of leadership or confidence? Or is it a specific medium of communication that they're not familiar with, whether it's on speaking online or speaking in large audiences or maybe even internally to their companies?
Well, both. You're speaking my language. When you said walking into a room, I ask every audience when I'm speaking to groups, when you walk into a room, do you own the room or does the room own you? I see people sabotage themselves before they ever open their mouth. So that's what we're talking about when we say executive presence. And we work a lot with that, how to hold the space and how to master silence so that you're in control. But the other piece is what you said, technology. A lot of people are out there interviewing and they may have a Skype interview, and one of the typical mistakes people make is they look directly at the screen instead of above at the camcorder. And so it looks like they're looking down instead of making eye contact. It's not a comfortable place to be, but that's how you create that one-on-one eye contact in a technical interview. So yeah, it's different. We have webinars, we have podcasts. There are so many different media now that people have to get familiar with. Video is extremely hot, and people need to be able to manage that medium as well. So there's a lot to learn, whereas before, things were simpler.
Well, I don't know if it's about simpler. I think there's an advantage today to the easiness, and I think the more authentic or more comfortable speakers and presenters have, I think it adds to the content that's out there. I actually was watching someone the other day just really be themselves, as opposed to very, very rehearsed, and it came off much better. Do you help to tap into people's authenticity when you work with them?
I do, and you're reminding me, when I did work at the NBA a number of years ago, there are some people that have to be scripted because they're verbose, but there was this one man who was struggling, and finally I pulled the script out of his hand. I said, just talk. You know what to say. Just talk from your knowledge base. And he was so much better. And he needed someone to give him permission to do that. Now, fast forward, he now works for the Philadelphia 76ers, and he called me in last year to work with his team. And he said to me, I'll never forget what you did for me. And that was a number of years ago. But when people are free to be who they are, they're so much more impactful. I can tell you a story about myself. I said something in a talk to women, which I hadn't planned on saying, but it just came out of my mouth. And the women in the group, loved it. And they came up to me and said, would you have said that in a corporation? And I said, well, I think I would have, because I was quoting myself. But they just resonated with me because I had that moment of being totally real that I had not practiced and not had planned to say. So you do want to be yourself, you do want to be authentic, but you do have to have a filter as well. You can't just say whatever comes into your head.
I don't know. I think my late grandmother had that ability, and it was wonderful. It always was getting the most point, whatever just came right out without the filter. So Diane, here's a good question. Give us a little background on what you're most passionate about, you yourself. Like, what led you into? You've been doing this career for a while. What is it about? Like, what gets you out of bed every day that gets you most excited?
Being able to see transformations before my very own eyes. I don't have a lot of patience, so I don't want to be in a business where it takes forever to see results. And it's so exciting when people come in and they're nervous or they're stumbling, and they turn it around and they can do it, and it makes an impact in their work. And then when you see the results, what people don't realize is there is really a return on investment, an ROI, that's not often measured. And one example is I worked with a CEO, and it was a large vaccine company. And he asked me to coach him because he had a high stakes presentation. He wanted to convince the executive committee to fund the building of a vaccine facility. It would mean $300 million of investment, no guarantee of success, and then there would be 3 years of clinical trials after that. So I worked with him, and he got the funding, and that $300 million turned into a $1 billion success. So when people have the skills of influence and can present themselves in such a way, it really has tremendous impact, not only emotionally, but in terms of dollars and cents. So what gets me up, seeing the impact that makes in people's lives, and to know that people are empowered, and to be able to change mindsets, and to be able to show how you can shift with some little tweaks. People come in sometimes and think they're going to have to change who they are. I had one woman who once was very soft-spoken. She was an executive, but this was getting in her way. So before I started working with her, I said, well, how do you feel about coaching? And she said, they want me to change my voice. And I said, well, we're not going to do that. And I said, do you speak to your children the same way you speak to your boss? Well, no. Well, do you speak to your husband the same way you speak to your boss? Well, no. And so I explained to her that there were very different voices she was going to use depending on the situation. So helping people reframe how they think about communication is where the power is.
So Diane, I love asking this question. People who work with lots of other performers and have to get them up every now and then can have an off day. When you have trouble thriving, who or what do you turn to get back on the thriving track?
Well, luckily I have my community at NSA, and I pick up a phone and I review what I did, and I just get back up on that horse and ride the next time. But the other piece is I'm experienced enough that I know how to recover. And that's a big piece of successful speaking. You need recovery strategies. And I work with people on that. And I remember one woman saying, well, what if I trip? Well, what if I get up on the stage and I fall down? And I said, all right, well, let's imagine that you did. What could you say? And here's where people freeze. They don't know what to do. So I said, well, how about saying something like, I want you to know I've been rehearsing that entrance for weeks. Or never let it be said, I don't know how to make an entrance. And so when people have tools like that and they don't take it seriously, the audience is with you. People give so much power to the listener and to the audience. And I say, they're on your side. They want you to succeed. And even the greatest successes, even people who are highly trained, have off days. And I told a story of being at the Ryman Theater in Nashville and watching these two men perform. It was a musical. They were the Everly Brothers. And during one of the numbers, one of the men in a duet cracked. And it was obvious. Everybody knew his voice cracked. So after they finished the song, he said, I want to thank the audience for helping me or for seeing me through puberty. And everybody started laughing. So it's those kinds of things. You're going to have off days. You're going to make mistakes. Don't take it seriously. Just incorporate it.
So tell us a little bit about, you have a book here and there's obviously some methodologies in there. Is there a key component or a theme to what your practice is? And I'm getting at this, Diane, specifically, many people have kind of a foundation or building blocks that they go by. Help understand what your key core foundations are so that people can understand what Knockout Presentations is all about.
Well, Lou, one of my brands is simple, practical tips you can use immediately. And that's how I wrote this book. It's a seminar in a book. And that's why a lot of colleges have used it, because it works. It's no fluff, no theory. It's practical skills that are going to help you get to that next level. So my philosophy is know yourself, know your audience, and know your message. And everything that you need to know is going to fall into one of those three buckets. And so what I do is I make things simple. anything that's complex, we simplify and we bring it down into smaller and smaller bites so that people can do it. And when people can do it, that's when they build confidence. So it's one skill at a time.
Gotcha. So one skill at a time. Any skill specifically you are thinking that, what did you recently add? Because this is the third edition of your book. I assume there's different components to it. Is there something new in the content that you've added based on something that's recent that wasn't in the earlier ones?
More in the technology, the apps and the resources that are available. When I first wrote the book, I didn't have an online YouTube for affirmation, so we have links to those kinds of things too. And it really is an evergreen book because the principles of good speaking communication don't change. Styles change, but the principles don't. So anybody can pick it up and do it.
Gotcha. All right. So now we're going to have fun here. Okay. I recently went to a presentation and I saw a very fast spoken individual, that's the best way to describe it, who came from another country. So there was an accent. He might have been a little bit difficult to understand. He also was nervous visibly up there, and that made him speak really quickly. All right. So many people who listen to our show are international entrepreneurs. We have tons of people from all over the globe that listen, and this is an area that they have a little bit of a weakness with. Diane, how would you work with someone like that and helping them get to a place where not only they feel more confident, but also they can be a little bit more clear?
Well, you may not know this, but I was a speech pathologist. That was my first career. So I do work with accent when people are working with me in a coaching capacity. So the first thing is slowing people down. And the mistaken notion is that it's not slowing the words down, it's putting in the spaces in between so they can collect their thoughts, formulate the sentence, take a breath. And that pause is so critical. I have something on my computer, which is voice spectrography. I don't know if anyone else has it, but it takes a voice print. So I have people speak in, and they can actually see the spaces between the columns of the spectrogram. And we start to extend those spaces until they get comfortable with silence. But that slowing down in between the words and coming to a full stop helps with the clarity, helps with the confidence, helps with formulating your thoughts. So that's a big piece of it. And I tell people that if you master nothing, master the pause, because that's where real gravitas is. When you're speaking a mile a minute, when you're staccato, that's nervousness. So take it down a notch. Take time to breathe. Take time to pause.
Gotcha. We're here with Diane DiResta from DiResta Communications, and she is helping us with little tidbits, and we're making this a fun educational program here on Thrive Loud. All right, so let's do this, Diane. Where can everybody find you, plugs, the book, and everything? Give me all the social media outlets so that we can look a little bit deeper into finding out how to get everything that you offer.
All right, well, it should all be on DiResta.com, DiResta.com. My handle on Twitter is SpeakingPro. And the rest, you can look me up on LinkedIn, connect with me, Facebook, Instagram, Google+. I'm on all of those places. I'm also a C-Suite advisor with C-Suite Network. So I'm around in a lot of places, but the central location is DiResta.com. And of course, I have over 100 videos on YouTube, so feel free to watch those. They're instructional as well.
Excellent. And Diane, now the question that I know you've been fraying and worrying about the entire time. What is your all-time favorite movie?
Casablanca.
And what is it about that movie that you like so much?
So many themes, and I just find it to be a deep movie. It's inspiring. I like Humphrey Bogart, but just so many different themes that can take you in different places. It's a classic. I watch it. Every time I watch it, I see something new.
Yeah, I think at one point it was one of the most quotable movies of all time, and until maybe The Godfather came out. But it's up there.
And I think when it first came out, it didn't get great reviews, but today it's one of the classics, so I love it.
Gotcha. Diane DiResta, thank you for providing all our Thrive Lab listeners with a lot of fun, and this has been great.
Thank you. And again, thank you for having me on the show, and I wish you success on the platform of life, and may every presentation be a knockout.
Love it. Great. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been great.
Thanks, Lou.
And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.